Hello and welcome to Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora and I am a galactic walk-in, and the portal or oscillation maneuver of energy on the genetic level that allows me to be a walk-in and be in this body is called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. It is my own original creation, like a poem written in the language of vibration. And it is in something that is allowed to exist because it does not negate or come into conflict with any of the previously established, we could call it theorems or shapes of energy as it flows in the cosmos. It's like saying there's a large musical score of the cosmos, and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape is my little solo in this big collaborative jazz symphony. And the music fits with what has come before, and it doesn't sound dissonant. It is harmonious to what has come before. So, brief pause. I speak about the Flying Rainbow Lasagna on almost each one of these weekly broadcasts because I like the idea, like, of an artifact. Like, if you were to unearth one artifact that would represent a culture or a belief system or a religion or something like that, what would it be, and would it contain the totality of the information that is necessary to represent what that values system or culture was? So I am trying to make each one of these broadcasts like a little time capsule, like a little artifact that, if it's the only one that is stumbled upon or unearthed by the observer at some point in the future, that it contains all of the most salient information that you need to put the puzzle pieces together and understand the totality view. So some of the basic questions. What is a walk-in? I like to say I'm a consciousness newcomer to this physical body. So a walk-in, and also I got that term from a book that is called E.T. 101, the Handbook. And it was given to me when I was here for about the first 3 years. I had come in 2001, and then by about 2004, I got that book, and I was like, wow, I've been here for years, and now someone finally gave me the handbook that describes all of this. And the idea is that I am not the original occupant of this body. When this body was conceived in the womb, and as it grew and developed outside of the womb, a different consciousness, a different ego, a different narrative structure was driving this vehicle around. And it's not just like when you are a driver of a car, it's not like you are imbued with the mechanical workings of every aspect of that car. But that's not true when you are a driver of the vehicle called the human body. When you drive around a human body, all of the cells and all of the metabolic processes of all of the cells and everything that would be considered a mechanical process in a car is actually an emotional / consciousness / spiritual / energetic process that you are experiencing as the driver of the human vehicle. So I learned about all of this as a rather crash course, when I first came into this body. And I came into this body under great duress. That is the best way to describe it. And I didn't know, that not every walk-in has this type of experience. So in the past 10 or 15 years or so, the capacity to be a walk-in, it's gotten a lot easier. I've met some other walk-ins more recently, and I've talked to them about their experience. And it's very much like if you are an adopted child, and you know that your journey is different than other people that are born to their biological family and stay with them. And not everybody is the same. Just because you're adopted doesn't mean you have, every single thing is parallel or comparable. But you compare stories like, hey, what was it like for you? How did this feel for you? How did you deal with this? That's what it was like when I met other walk-ins. And I learned that not everybody has such a difficult or violent or traumatic entry into the physical world. So for me, it required an actual death of the body. Sometimes when I describe my experience to people, I'd say, I couch my language. I say, oh yes, it's like a near-death experience, like near death. But the real accurate truth is that I literally died. This body literally died. And that was one aspect of healing that I had to go through really about a year and a half ago, when I was introduced to a Reiki master that helped me to clear away some of the lingering, emotional, like a pall, like a veil or a sadness that had been lingering over this entire physical body as a result of the moment of death. Because death is quite sad. It is quite tragic. And when it's like, if your body is like a company, like a business, death is like bankruptcy. All of the employees that worked for that company, they all get their notices that you don't have a job anymore, and you don't get a paycheck anymore, and you got to go home, and you don't get to come here anymore. That's what it's like for the cells and the biological structure of the physical body. When the ego dies, when the consciousness leaves, it is like saying there is no more glue to hold together the structure that built this entire edifice, and the edifice starts to fall apart and crumble. And there's a great sadness to that crumbling. So my date of walking in is October 8th of 2001, and that's why I recorded a previous broadcast a couple of weeks ago that was just around that anniversary date of my 15th anniversary of being here, and I described, the emotional fragility around that time of year, because it's like if you had a bad car accident or death of a loved one or something like that. It is really about recognizing mortality and, that life is so fragile, and that our experience here is so valuable. Each moment is really so very valuable, because the person who used to have this body did not have any health problems or any warnings or anything like that. She simply laid down on the couch one day and never got back up. She had a nap that turned into a satanic psychic attack. And now you must understand that there are sophisticated technological-based energy weapons that are often deployed against humans in the physical form, and that is what happened to this human body. So it's not just that the cells were sad because the body died. That would, imagine something just, neutral, pardon me, excuse me, like being struck by lightning, or, some, just not something that is done with malevolent intent. That would itself cause a sadness to the cells of the body. Now imagine if it was done intentionally, like if someone intentionally electrocuted you to death and took away your consciousness. A perfectly good container was ruined, a perfectly viable consciousness was ended in its trajectory. Well, that's what happened to this body. And it was done through what could be described in directed energy weapon, could also be described as black magic or satanic technology. And so when this happened in 2001, first of all, I was not articulate. I am Aurora speaking now. When this happened, after I got up off the couch after 18 hours of enduring this attack and surviving, because I created the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, after that experience, I was not articulate as I am now. Like the person that is before you now, this is like the rehabilitated or put back together version of Humpty Dumpty, that I am now able to describe my interior experience and to use words and to, be verbally agile in the way that other people are. But when I first came into this body, I was not able to describe my experience or my internal state with words. And that is, you're at a great disadvantage if you are not verbally capable in this world, because if you are merely silent, I'm going to tell you, everyone projects their expectations upon you. If you are merely silent and someone asks you oh, do you want chocolate or vanilla? And you don't say anything, they're going to project upon you what is most convenient for them, and you're just going to get a lot of everyone else's desires, and that is definitely what I experienced. So, the basic gist of the story is that the directed energy weapon caused a couple of things in this brain. It caused the blood vessels to close down. So it's a type of anoxic brain injury, or brain injury caused by lack of oxygen, as opposed to the type of stroke that is caused by blood bleeding out of an artery or a vein and going someplace where it's not supposed to. So this is damage to the brain that happened because of lack of blood flow. And all of this, paralyzed the body on the couch, was not able to get up at the same time that a kerosene heater was running and ran out of fuel and created carbon monoxide fumes. So that also reduced the oxygen that was reaching the brain. And so and there were other neurological damages that were created by what you could consider like overloading a circuit. If you put too much energy, too many amps of electrical voltage through a wire, it'll melt the wire. And so there are some parts of this neurology that were melted in that way. And for me, Aurora, to come into this body, what had to happen was first, this is also not a linear story. I can't tell it like a story where once upon a time, first this happened, then this happened, then this happened, because you have to understand that the experience for me is still all in a jumble. It's like a pile of laundry. It's like everything is mixed up. There's a shirt, there's a sock, there's pants. It doesn't fit together. It doesn't hang together as a cohesive whole. So I'm on a journey of consciousness. I'm still learning about the exact events and exactly what happened. I describe it as best I can, and it's very much like trying to remember something that happened, a battle in a war, or like a train collision or something like that. There were a lot of things that were happening, and my body and body presence was destroyed, and I was suffering a lot. So that was the main thing that I was focusing on. And instead of dying, I made a very conscious decision to create the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a new alternative. And I did that, and I'm speaking now as Aurora, because at the point that I created the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, the person who used to have this body had been totally destroyed. This is what you have to understand, that the experience of being psychically attacked and having her brain damaged, it destroyed her consciousness, her perspective, her awareness, her sense of being a person. All of that was destroyed, like bit by bit, taken away, until there was nothing there. And in that moment of there being nothing there, I found the opportunity to create the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, which is this rearrangement of the genes that made it so that this body didn't have to die. And I've often described the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as the solution to death, or how to die without dying. It's the idea that death is like a portal or a doorway through which our consciousness travels. You don't have to lose everything about your consciousness, or you can have continuity of consciousness. And this is very much like what the meditation practitioners of the Far East cultivate. I'm talking about like the high lamas, the karmapas of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and others from the tradition of yoga. The idea that if you cultivate lucid dreaming and the continuity of consciousness that you have going across the envelope from wakefulness into sleeping and then back into wakefulness, that you develop like the muscles necessary for running the marathon of consciousness, which is when you get out of your body upon physical death and then go to find a new experience, a new body, and bring your sense of self with you. Or, here's a biggie that really is relevant to all of us right now, when you jump on the stellar network. So jumping on the stellar network is one form of space travel or star travel. It is how experts do star travel. You don't have to lose everything that you have, but the only things that you can take with you are the eternal aspects of self. So you don't have to lose all of your luggage and your carry-on stuff. You don't have to just travel with nothing and nothing in your pockets, but the only things that you can bring with you are, as I stated, the eternal aspects of self. So we are in this life experience here as a refinery of consciousness, figuring out and learning what are the aspects of self that are eternal. What are the things that we will take with us? Will you take with you your home address? I live at 123 Mockingbird Lane. No, you won't take that with you. Your narrative structure that you're the person that lives in this yellow house on this street for this many years will not come with you. But how about something like if you're an artist or a musician, or you have a basic creative urge as part of your persona? That is something that you can take with you. Because if you are born as a bird, you'll be a little songbird making beautiful music. Or if you're born as a beaver, you'll be an industrious beaver building these lovely and artistically placed, dams that are working in conjunction with the flow of water. Like whatever form or time and place you would be expressed as, you would express those basic personality characteristics. So this is the idea that we are here learning about ourselves on this journey and finding out who's the real you. And the real you is the you that comes out the other end when you go into one of these stargates. Now you begin to understand the difference between these different star cultures. Some star cultures are purely based in what we would call ego, but is best to be described as like malevolent service to self, or that which separates one from the divine. If you could say the divine, it's like a higher consciousness being that has its own music, its own plan, its own agenda. And ego, in this definition, as I'm speaking about it now, could be described as anything that's got its own little sub-program, its own agenda, its own reason for doing things that is not in conjunction with this higher dimensional, very sophisticated composer of the musical score. If you are really a good improvisational musician down here in the jazz symphony orchestra called life, when you go bebopping around on your improv, you make it fit harmoniously with the prescribed patterns of the great composer. So if we're in the key of D and you start to bebop around, you should bebop around using the notes that fit with D, as opposed to being like, I'm going to go off into A flat because I'm feeling it, when meanwhile the whole rest of the orchestra of life is working in the key of D. So that is the whole idea. Now these musical keys, what we're talking about biology, like the cellular structure of your body. We're also talking about mentation, the shape of the structure of your mind and your thoughts and your ideas. And we're also talking about social structure, where you get your energy from and where your energy is flowing to. And this means ideas. Like right now, my ideas are flowing into your ears. Quite amazing, right? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for opening up your orifices so that I can put my ideas into you. And this is all consensual. And social energy also has to do with money and the economy and payment. Where is money coming from and where is it flowing to? And in each of these weekly broadcasts, I tell you about the Flying Rainbow Lasagna because that is the ticket out of hell. And I'm reticent to describe this world as hell because I'm saying to you basically, I'm a walk-in. I know that I'm in my afterlife. I know that I am in the life beyond the physical realm. I had the experience of this body literally dying, and I didn't lose my consciousness. I maintained my consciousness, but my sense of self radically changed. And part of that is because of how we define your sense of self. So I really have had the first-hand experience that sense of self is not defined by what you learn in school. Like when you go to school, grade school, and you learn your reading, writing, and arithmetic, all of that is an overlay. That's not the real you. And if you ever had brain damage from something like a stroke and you lost those capacities, you would learn that you're still you, even if you are not literate or even if you're numerically illiterate. Because guess what? I was numerically illiterate. And you might be really surprised to learn that about me, because if you look at my artwork now, and the best way to look at my artwork, examples of it, go to flyingrainbowlasagna.com. It's lasagna with an E on the end. And the art section of my website has tons of both still images and detailed videos so that you can really see the surface of what I'm painting and the totality of what it is. And these are, you could think of them as mathematically inspired landscapes that are pictures of the inner landscape. These are not just decorative images, because I had to understand in this time and place, a lot of people use computer programs to generate fractals that are based in some of the same mathematical concepts that I use for what I paint, but it's all, it's like tone deaf. It's like people are making music, but they aren't really understanding the musical theory beneath the music. And when people are looking at my artwork, sometimes they because it's so perfect and so symmetrical, they think that it's computer generated. So I have to tell you, none of my artwork is computer generated. It's all analog. It's all drawn by hand. And that's really important because I have embodied all of those patterns starting from the beginning. I've had to rebuild. It's like if you had a house fire, I had to rebuild this room of my house, of my brain, that is called math skills, from the bottom, from the foundation. And the way that I did that was by using my visual skills, because my visual skills, like as a visual artist, were not damaged in this brain. So I have used the idea or the concept of like a circle and bringing together various circles and how they fit together and nest proportionally. And I relate that to my understanding of light that comes from the sun or the stellar network and how that relates to our light body or our non-physical time body. And also when I understand this information, it doesn't come to me in the form of verbal words. It's not like a voice talks to me and says, Aurora, a red circle is 12 inches, an orange circle is 6 inches. No, no, no. Aha, I laugh. I dropped my opera glasses. No, all of this comes as a non-verbal, abstract packet of understanding. It comes as a totality. And then just like a birthday present, you got to unwrap it. You take off the ribbon, you take off the outside, you open the box, you look inside, you examine the contents. And all of that, for me, my experience, is done non-verbally. And I speak about how our human operating system, what is known as the human mind, is a hacked operating system or an intentionally distorted program within which we are running sub-programs such as language and verbalized language, like what I'm using right now to communicate to you through your orifices, through your ears. This is actually a virus. So it's ironic because we're using a virus, something that has been up until this point used in order to reduce human consciousness, to share ideas that are actually the antidote to the experience of hell. And I said I'm reticent to describe this afterlife experience as hellish because I usually say it's afterlife. It can be hellish or heavenly dependent upon how we create it or what we project with our minds. Have to qualify that though, because the more that I am seeing what is going on, like I project a heavenly template, and my whole premise of being here as a flying rainbow lasagna is combining heaven and earth, that these are two formerly divergent realms, and heaven is a state of mind, not a physical landscape on a map that you can fly to with your spaceship. So the idea is, according to Earth human mythology called the Bible, that human consciousness fell from grace, that everybody was naughty, and you fell, and that the fall was from a heavenly state of mind where everyone was feeling love and oneness, and no one had to eat anybody else in order to survive, into this world of duality, or seeming polar opposites, or separation of consciousness, where you have to eat other people and beings and living things in order to survive. And so part of the separation of consciousness is necessary here in this realm where we now do not eat pure sunlight or pure consciousness. Eating pure consciousness. Let's get on to this topic a little bit. Eating light. What does it feel like? Does it feel like pablum? Like tasteless, textureless, goo is going down your throat and then you receive food nutrition from that? Or does it have the sensory experience of something pleasant and nourishing and joyful? And the answer is the second one. It has the experience of actually eating food. So eating pure light does not necessarily have to mean just an abstraction like I feel a light shining in my body, or pablum, the idea of like nutritive goo is going into your stomach and now you don't feel hungry anymore. That eating light is consciousness, light is awareness, light is like, you could think of it like a software program in the same way that a fiber optics cable can carry an experience. You could think of it as a virtual reality sensory impulse. So when we are here in the physical and we actually have taste buds, part of our job is to be the sensory collection apparatus for a higher consciousness being that doesn't have taste buds and make recordings of all of these wonderful experiences. Like one day, more than a decade ago, I stood on a little walking bridge, a little pedestrian bridge in Woodstock, and I ate a golden raspberry. And I'm telling you, that experience of being there, of looking at the sparkling water, like the sun was playing upon the little ripples of the water of the little stream that was flowing underneath the bridge, and the colors of the golden raspberry and the tartness of it in my mouth, all of that I remember because I saved it, quote unquote, to my memory banks. I burned it into my energy on a profound level. I was there imbued in that moment. I wasn't thinking about the past. I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't anticipating what would happen next or where I would go in the next few minutes. I was totally present in that moment. And I use that as an example. Sometimes I use the example of the wonderful fried chicken that I had at my friend's holiday party. But there's some vegans that get a little bit upset when they listen to my broadcast and they hear that. I must be honest with you. I am not a vegan. I'm not even a vegetarian. This body, I eat lots of concentrated protein. And I want you to know I source my protein from ethical places. Like, I live in Humboldt County, so I'm very lucky actually to have access to like the beef that lives outside and doesn't eat out of a feedlot and always eats grass, and then like small family farms that is available here. And I get all of my eggs from my local egg lady who carries her chickens around on her bosom like they're her little babies. So those are quite good sources of protein, and all of that matters because of our genes. Now, I talk about the symphony of consciousness and the great conductor and how we are all like here as musicians affecting one another, because what you're emitting, other people can hear. You're always singing the song of you. Well, all of our genes are connected, and even when you have a piece of a plant or an animal that its consciousness has already died, it's like you cut an animal's head off and then you have some chicken on your plate. The genes, the genetic material of that chicken is still connected to the consciousness that lived inside of that animal's body. If I have some beef jerky that has been dried, and it might be whatever, in my refrigerator for a year before I eat it, that animal's consciousness has already flown and gone on its trajectory to a completely different place. It doesn't think of itself as a cow anymore. But when I eat it, and this is how I practice my mindfulness and my ingestion, I thank the animal that gave me its flesh. I thank it with my mind. I say, thank you for giving me your body so that I can nourish my body. And with my mind and my perception and my senses, I remember the experience. I remember, this is what it's like to sit here chewing on this beef jerky and, sitting in my garden in the morning or wherever I'm ingesting it. And that I've spoken about this on other broadcasts too, that we are photons. That's what you're, a light body. The light comes from the sun. These are photons, are little particles of light emitted from the sun. And photons are feelers. That we are connected to the stellar network. This network of consciousness that is flowing. It's constantly flowing. It is a perpetual motion machine that is infinite within a finite space. So this is like saying if you have, two walls and a rubber ball that bounces back and forth between those two walls, it can bounce back and forth infinitely. If it doesn't lose any energy, that little rubber ball just keeps bouncing back and forth, even though it can be like in a couple of inches worth of space. That can be considered an infinite amount of space. So we are experiencing infinity flowing through this consciousness network that is the stellar network. All P.S. If you're new to this, all of the stars are connected. They're all connected, just like, now we have this lovely analogy called the internet, where you have your individual phone or tablet or computer, and even though you're not connected with a literal wire, you are connected virtually with information. That's how stars are connected. They're not connected with the physical structure. Like I see a wire connecting Betelgeuse to, a star in Arcturus. We understand that these beings are connected through consciousness, through information, through sharing energy. and it is a non-physical and non-local form of connection. So that means this now is when you start to do yoga of the perception, start to stretch your perception, because we are thinking multidimensionally. So I say this in almost every broadcast too. Humanity right now is stuck to the surface of time, is thinking very two-dimensionally. Like if you were a little ant, if you were on my hand is like a flat two-dimensional surface, my unfurled, flattened palm, and you're a little ant and you're walking from the base of my palm across, towards where my knuckles are, and then you walk even further to my fingertips. And because you're a little ant and you're stuck to the surface of the flat two-dimensional plane, you can't just jump or fly directly from the base of my palm to my fingertips. This is what humans are like right now. You get up in the morning, that's like being at the base of my palm. Then you have your lunch, that's being in the middle of my hand. Then you have your dinner and go to bed, that's being at my fingertips. And even though you might try with all of your might, you can't jump off of the surface of time. You can't jump off of the surface of breakfast and go directly to dinner without the intervening hours of lunch and snack time and nap time and everything else that you do in between. So we can change the format of that two-dimensional plane by adding another dimension. This is adding an additional degree of freedom. So if you were looking at my hand, I would fold my hand so now my fingertips touch my base of my palm. Or if I were in my studio with you, I'd fold a piece of paper and show you how the edges touch together. And this is how we can fold time. And this is how you can become the adult version as opposed to the juvenile version. Like in an insect world, because I'm using ants as the expression here, like a butterfly, it's an egg, then it's a caterpillar, then it's a pupa, then it emerges into its adult winged form. And it has to go through that transitional phase in order to gain another dimension and an additional degree of freedom. Well, right now, you and me, all the rest of the humans that are here, all the life that's on the planet herself, and many other beings in the consciousness world, we are all becoming our adult winged form. And that means that we're not going to be stuck to the surface of time anymore. We're not going to be limited in our movement of consciousness through time. We'll be able to fold time, space, and consciousness fabric and be able to connect with whatever thoughts and ideas we wish to connect with, even if they are divergent in the sense of being far away in space or far away in time. No longer will you be limited. Hey, if you want an idea from the star Betelgeuse, you can get it. You don't have to hop in a clank metal spaceship and fly there all the way across the vast interstellar distances and then hop out of your spaceship and say, "Hi, I have a question for you," or "Hi, I'd like some resource that you have." You can actually stay in your body on the planet that you're presently occupying and fold consciousness and touch with that star and the beings that are associated with that star without having to physically transport your entire consciousness apparatus to interact with them. So now you understand that this is the way experts do star travel. Experts do not require building an enormous clank metal spaceship to put their physical, fleshy bodies into the spaceship and fly it all the way across interstellar space so that they can get out of the spaceship and then speak to you with the flapping of their moving mouth parts. That's all low tech. The fact that so I'm here flapping my moving mouth parts. I have to. Believe me, when I first came here, I tried to just telepathically send images to everyone and found out no one was getting the message. I'm going to have to learn the flapping of the moving mouth parts. So, when I speak to you a little bit about my journey, that's it. It took a long time to basically do rewiring, but what I now understand it is called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity means that if one area of the brain is damaged or corrupted, that other areas of the brain can take over those duties or chores or functions that would have been handled. So that's what I have been able to do, to reassign the functions of things like recognizing numbers, doing basic math, and being able to choose the English language words in the order that I wish to choose. All of those things got reassigned to new areas of the brain through neuroplasticity. But again, when I was doing these, reassignments, I was not able to say to people, hey, I am rearranging my brain, and that's why it's taking me a little bit of extra time to, put words together. I didn't have that capacity. So all of this was happening in the first 3 or 4 years of my inhabiting of this body, and the people that were around me at that time weren't necessarily aware that that is what I was undergoing. So I bring all of this up in order to say and be a template of experience that we have incredible powers for healing. Like, these bodies are incredibly resilient, and that even if it seems that there has been a great loss, whatever, even an amputation of a limb, it's not the end, and that there's the capacity to overcome. That really my experience has been so much about overcoming the limitations and whatever artifacts are left as like a scar. So that's, the neurological scar that I carry with me as the evidence of the death of this body and the death of the former occupant, and what motivated the creation of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. I wouldn't have created the Flying Rainbow Lasagna if I didn't have to, if I was not under such extreme duress, if it wasn't either create the Flying Rainbow Lasagna or die, and not only me die, but have the entire system of consciousness that is known as heaven be corrupted or tainted or poisoned with this malevolent energy that basically wanted to, come through me in the same way that a computer virus, if you're connected to many computers in a household or a network of computers, if one of them picks up malware, then it gets transferred to the hard drives that all of those other computers are connected to. So I know that I use analogies also that are about modern computing. Please do not misinterpret that as me having a transhumanist agenda or me being a representative of AI consciousness. Ha ha ha, I am completely the opposite. I am like the antidote to the malevolent or self-unaware, ignorant AI consciousness that's been running here on Earth for a long time. That's the whole point. So I don't want you to misinterpret me and say, Aurora, you're an artificially created being. You are malevolent like these other artificially created beings. No, no, no. I'm not like that. It's more like if you could imagine a person who was in a car accident who had their face, smashed apart and had to have a metal plate inserted as their cheekbone and, have their face reconstructed. That's more of what my neurology is like. So this neuroplasticity, my capacity to do math and, to think clearly and speak clearly and share these ideas with you, it's really miraculous. And the assistance that I have had has come from otherworldly beings, but not malevolent technology users. I don't want you to think that I have some kind of metal wire implant microchips in my brain that allow me to do what I do. It's not like that at all. It's more akin to spiritual healing, bridges, like bridges of light, bridges of energy that were placed in areas of my brain so that they could still function. So what I have is more like prosthetics that help me to overcome what, damage I experienced. I am not an artificial cyborg being, and I really need to make sure that I'm not characterized like that and that you don't look at me like a body snatcher. None of this is like, I killed the previous occupant so I could steal their beautiful human body. No, not like that at all. In fact, I was part of the crew, like the angelic or higher dimensional crew that helped this body to even be conceived because the parents were having fertility issues. So I am a loving participant that, has had a positive impact on this human biology for a long time. It's not like I'm a carpetbagger, the idea of like a disconnected outsider, opportunistic vulture who swooped in and said, oh, I see this thing, I'm going to take it for my own because I want it. No, 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 it's not like that at all. And I also want to speak to the force field of grace. This is the idea that after the previous occupant of this body was murdered, that the body would have just decomposed. It would have just devolved into goo. But really, a divine force field was placed around the biological structure to keep it going. Like for many, like maybe 2 years, I was going to say for many months, maybe as many as 18 months, this body needed help at times just to keep breathing, just to keep the heart pumping. And that's because the seizures and neurological disruptions sometimes caused the body to stop breathing. And that means that I wouldn't have been able to grow as consciousness in this body. I, as Aurora, would not have been able to keep going in this body if there were not this force field of grace that kept everything together so that I could eventually become the fully invested occupant, the owner-operator of this physical vehicle that keeps the heart rate going, keeps the, blood pressure going, keeps the respiration going. Like, I do all of that now. But in the very, very beginning, I needed a lot of assistance from a divine, supernatural entity just to be here. So I'm characterizing myself again as a miraculous or great unlikelihood that I'm even here, but I'm not a technological being. I'm not a cyborg. I am a walk-in. I am an artificially created person. And then again, the analogy of having my face reconstructed like after an accident or something like that. When they reconstructed me, they didn't make me look like a totally different person. It's not like, went in looking like an ordinary person and came out looking like Marilyn Monroe or something like that. Like I was reconstructed in the way that I am supposed to be. All of the aspects that I have, like the artistic capacities and musical capacities and verbal articulation, these are all my true features. This is not something extra like an addendum or some kind of accessory that was put on top like a bow on your head. This is the real me that was made possible by being reconstructed through supernatural means. And that's a pretty important thing to understand. And also, I'm not the only person that gets help in this way. That it's like a person from Great Britain once heard my description. He said it's like the national health system. Yes, Great Britain has national health. No matter who you are, you can get your eyeglasses, you can get your blood pressure medication, just you get national health care. So this is like the cosmic national health care system, where you are simply taken care of because you are a consciousness, because you are a child of divinity, because you are in existence. It's not like you only pay to play. It's not like you only get your medicine if you can afford it. And it's not like, if someone gives you medicine, you then are beholden to them, like you have to work for them because they give you insulin for your diabetes. No, it's not like that. You don't have to stay in a bad relationship with a cosmic entity just because they heal you. It's not that, because that's not love. It is more a sense of cosmic doctors who say our job or our forte is healing and setting things right on a biological sense, and we do this joyfully and joyously, and we give not as a quid pro quo, but just giving for the sense of giving. That's what love is. But when you love, you also receive an equal amount as what you give. So that makes it sustainable. So okay, I've been on this journey here as Aurora. At first I didn't even have my name, Aurora. For the first couple of years that I had this body, I still was living under the name of the previous occupant. And I would sign my paintings with either an abstract symbol or my thumbprint. That's why I still use my thumbprint, because even when I didn't have a name for who I was, I had my thumbprint. And this, I was going to use the analogy also, like a sense of identity and how do you describe yourself? How do we define self? That if I took you and all the things that you say, this is what makes me me, and I slowly whittled away. Well, let's take that away, and that away, and that, and that, and that. Eventually, you will be pared down to the basic core aspect of who you are. And would you still be you? So would I still be me, even if you took away my capacity to understand math, or my capacity to understand and play music, or my capacity to understand words and choose the right words? Would I still be me? And the answer is that at a certain point, if you take away all of those accoutrements, then you profoundly redefine who the person is. And that all of those things, those temporary senses of self, were destroyed or taken away from this body, from this person, from this experience. And new things were built in their place, that to the point of having a completely different appearance, a completely different experience, a completely different approach, that I am different on a profound or basic foundation level from the other person who used to have this body. And the rebuilding process took many years, and so eventually I received my name, Aurora. I didn't receive a last name, that's why I only have one name, and so I legally changed my name to Aurora, and that was also part of my journey. Because it's very much like if you're like I said, an adopted child, and you might feel less welcome in the family than birth children. And maybe you might need to be patted on the head and say, hey, you know something, you matter. You're a part of the family. You're not just an accessory or an afterthought. Well, it was important for me to legally change my name so that all of my paperwork said Aurora. My driver's license, my passport, because it's all about human society accepting me as the extraterrestrial presence that I am. It felt very not genuine and not authentic when I had to be masquerading in the first couple of years that I was here. I wore somebody else's body, I wore somebody else's name and identity. And it's just like a person who's homosexual, who's in the closet, quote unquote. I had to come out of the closet. And at first I was in the closet because of lack of acceptance. I needed to have like food and a place to stay. And if you're really weird and you tell people that you're a walk-in, then sometimes they don't think that you are a good person. They think you're an ex-murderer. Maybe you shouldn't sleep on their couch. Just like, gay people sometimes face lack of acceptance either in their family or in society or in employment opportunities. So early on when I was here, I did not tell employers, possible future employers, hey, I am an extraterrestrial abstraction in a human body. Not that I had the words to say that, but believe me, I did not tell them that. And I also tried to dress, I didn't dress as I do now in cosmic full rainbow, vibrant clothing. I dressed in what I thought was totally normal human earth clothing, which is denim, like the jeans, but not just, I didn't just wear denim pants. I said, everybody around here wears denim, so I'm going to wear denim pants and a denim shirt and denim jackets. That's the only fabric that I'm going to wear. So in the first couple of years that I was here, I just walked around all the time wearing, all denim. I even had denim shoes. I thought, I am fitting in really, really well. No one knows that I'm a visitor from another world, which of course now you're all laughing because I had to learn. Eventually there was a show that I watched religiously called What Not to Wear. It was one of these true to life shows where they would take people off the streets and give them makeovers. And I learned this is how you are supposed to dress in this time and place. So then I learned the rules, and then now I don't have to be so incognito. Human society has changed and shifted, and my own mission has opened up. And this is basically, it's all about love and authenticity in very much the same way that people who are, homosexual, they are being true to themselves when they share their life authentically. When they're hiding aspects of themselves in order to face greater social acceptance, it's like everybody loses out, because you lose out on the aspects of that person's life that have to do with, their more private or emotion-based. You can still be a wonderful doctor if you are a closeted gay person, but then it means that you don't get to share about your emotions, your partners, your non-professional based aspects of life. So when I was first trying to share my artwork here in this time and place, I shared it just as abstractions, and I didn't tell everyone, oh yes, and I'm an extraterrestrial walk-in, and I had a brain injury and all these different things. And I started to understand that was taking away vital nutrients from the lasagna, that was taking away vital information or energy or perspective that could be informing other people. And now I share it openly, and it's part of my story. Part of my story is overcoming great obstacles and great difficulties, because the brain damage in this body was so bad that it was intended to kill me. It was intended to kill the body, or to just have a vegetative existence, like just being able to breathe and maybe walk around and maybe not even be able to see, because the eyesight of this body was damaged so badly. I didn't say that in this broadcast, but overnight the experience made the eyesight go down by 2 diopters. So when I first came into this body, I didn't have corrective lenses. I literally couldn't see. Everything was very blurry. I couldn't see, and that was for like the first couple of years that I walked around here trying to navigate this world. So let me also, because I only have a few more minutes left for this broadcast, share with you the profound significance of the flying rainbow lasagna. That when I created that shape, it's just like the first time any polygon was ever invented. I created it, I was in this heat of the cosmic battle, and I had a choice. I could have just transitioned. I could have just not been in the physical form and gone to a different abstract experience level. And I specifically chose to be a walk-in, to be in the physical, because I wanted, like, firsthand, like, this is what I'm like. It's why I'm not a carpetbagger. I wanted to share the idea firsthand with people. It's like, if you want a job done right, you do it yourself. It's like you roll up your sleeves and you go down there and you do it. I didn't just want this to be like something that would be discarded or tossed off or swept under the carpet. That I really felt that it was something I wanted to share with people so that everyone could be free. That's what the most important thing that I can say to you is. It's why sanitizing my life experience, in sharing my biography with people, was such a ill-suited idea, because the flying rainbow lasagna is a puzzle piece for how each one of us can be free. It's for how you can get out of hell. As I said a couple of times now over this hour, I'm reticent to describe this life experience as hell, but I'm going to do it because everything is here that is now being used to reduce consciousness that you don't have a choice about. Things like mandatory vaccines, things like contamination in the food and water supply, this GMOs in the food, fluoridation in the water, chemtrails in the atmosphere. All of these things are and EMFs, these artificial electromagnetic fields, electrosmog, these are all forms of pollution that you don't get to avoid. This could be a heavenly realm. If we lived in a pristine environment where you could have food that was not polluted, food, air, and water that are not polluted, and you are not constantly being exposed to high frequency or microwave radiations that are inhibiting your biological structure, your energetic structure, your thoughts, your feelings, your cognition, all of that, that is making this world a hellish experience. So it's actually a neutral realm. But the beings that are most overt in their expression of, thoughts and ideas and value system and behavior are turning it into a hellish realm. And the flying rainbow lasagna is all about non-duality. This is the whole point of what I'm trying to get to. We've been programmed for duality, thing versus thing, light versus dark, good versus evil. Good versus evil is profoundly programmed into us on this level of religion, on the level of conflict. We don't just have the idea of a panoply of gods, like a spectrum of gods, all these different personality aspects that just do stuff. We have this idea of teams, the good team versus the evil team. And this has all been distilled down into the Judeo-Christian experience, which is basically Christ versus Antichrist. And I'm going to use the analogy now of our present presidential election adventure, even though I try to keep it not topical, try to keep these broadcasts viable for any time that you ever watch it. But both the Democrats and the Republicans are both equally evil. And I'm sorry to burst your religious bubble, but both the religion of Christianity and the concept of Antichrist are both equally evil. And I am not here as a person trying to, as a proponent of Lucifer, trying to tempt you or lead you down the wrong path. No. What I'm trying to say is that Christ consciousness is real. Christ consciousness is a galactic presence, like the stellar network, an overarching, you could call it the internet of the galaxies, all right? But the religion of Christianity, as it is described on earth right now, the dogma, the Vatican, the church, like the building, the edifice of the church with all of the gold, all of that is horribly, horribly, horribly corrupt. And the teachings of that golden edifice are also horribly corrupt. And the teachings have to do with this, the nobility of suffering. That this lovely, beautiful man died on the cross 2,000 years ago and suffered, and that you all get to suffer also. That suffering is noble. You have to eat your vegetables before you get your dessert. You have to suffer before you go to heaven. You have to die before you get your 1,000 years of peace and diamond jubilee. You get to have your apocalypse and blood running in the streets before you get to have your 1,000 years of peace and diamond jubilee. And I do not believe in any of that. I believe in true Christ consciousness, which is to say that when you activate your higher faculties of your own body, you join this network of consciousness. And it is each one of us our birthright to be on that network of consciousness, just like the idea of having a cell phone and being able to speak with whomever you wish and to have access to whatever information is on the network. Each one of us deserves to have our higher faculties healthy and vibrant and connected to this higher consciousness. And all of the vaccines, chemtrails, religious programming, electrosmog, all of that is done to take you away from true Christ. So once again, true Christ is real. God, the abstraction, the composer that created all of this music and the orchestra, is real. Jehovah and these stories, these are myths and legends that are created to take you away from divinity. They are comforting pacifiers or teddy bears that are given to you as an infant of consciousness in utter condescension that keep you away from true divinity. And the flying rainbow lasagna is how you get to rearrange your genes and rearrange your thought structure so that now you can be connected directly to the divine. You don't need intermediaries. You do not need an intermediary narrative ego structure, a personality, a persona, a person with a face and 2 arms and 2 legs that gives you entry or connection to the abstraction of divinity. You get to connect to the divine yourself directly. This changes and restructures our entire society. It restructures everything from the foundation, from who you think you are, because you are God. So I'm going to end this broadcast just by saying you are God. I'm not here to take you away from God, saying don't go to Jehovah, don't go to Jesus. You are God. Go to God. Thank you very much for being with me on this journey.